여러분 안녕하세요. 대한민국 영어 감잡기 프로젝트 데미안과 함께하는 너쉬영북 시간입니다. 이번 시간은 25강 리딩입니다. 76쪽 새 챕터부터 79쪽까지예요. 연관문은 블루로 표시되었어요. 자, 들어갑니다. Chapter 4, Beatrice. At the end of the holidays and without having seen my friend again, I went to Saint something. My parents accompanied me and entrusted me to the care of a boys' boarding house run by one of the teachers at the preparatory school. They would have been struck dumb with horror had they known into what world they were letting me wander. The question remained, was I eventually to become a good son and a useful citizen, or did my nature point in an altogether different direction? My last attempt to achieve happiness in the shadow of the parental home had lasted a long time, had on occasion almost succeeded, but had completely failed in the end. The peculiar emptiness and isolation that I came to feel for the first time after confirmation passed only very slowly. 가로안, oh, how familiar it was to become afterwards this desolate thin air. My leave-taking from home was surprisingly easy. I was almost ashamed that I did not feel more nostalgic. My sisters wept for no reason. My eyes remained dry. I was astonished at myself. I had always been an emotional and essentially good child. Now I had completely changed. I behaved with utter indifference to the world outside, and for days on end, the voices within preoccupied me. Inner streams, the forbidden dark streams that roared below the surface. I had grown several inches in the last half year, and I walked lanky and half-finished through the world. I had lost any charm I might ever have had and felt that no one could possibly love me the way I was. I certainly had no love for myself. Often I felt a great longing for Max Demian, but no less often I hated him, accusing him of having caused the impoverishment of my life that held me in its sway like a foul disease. I was neither liked nor respected in my boys' boarding house. I was teased to begin with, then avoided and looked upon as a sneak and an unwelcome oddity. I fell in with this role, even exaggerated it, and grumbled myself into a self-isolation that must have appeared to outsiders like permanent and masculine contempt of the world. Whereas in truth, I often secretly succumbed to consuming fits of melancholy and despair. In school, I managed to get by on the knowledge accumulated in my previous class. The present one lagged somewhat behind the one I had left, and I began to regard the students in my age group contemptuously as mere children. It went on like this for a year or more. The first few visits back home left me cold. I was glad when I could leave again. It was the beginning of November. I had become used to taking short meditative walks during all kinds of weather, walks on which I often enjoyed a kind of rapture tinged with melancholy, scorn of the world, and self-hatred. Thus I roamed in the foggy dusk one evening through the town. The broad avenue of a public park stood deserted, beckoning me to enter. The path lay thickly carpeted with fallen leaves, which I stirred angrily with my feet. There was a damp, bitter smell, and the distant trees, shadowy as ghosts, loomed huge out of the mist. I stopped irresolute at the far end of the avenue, staring into the dark foliage. I greedily breathed the humid fragrance of decay and dying, to which something within me responded with greeting. Someone stepped out of one of the side paths, his coat billowing as he walked. I was about to continue when a voice called out, "Hello, Sinclair." He came up to me. It was Alphonse Beck, the oldest boy in our boarding house. I was always glad to see him, had nothing against him, except that he treated me and all others who were younger with an element of ironic and avuncular condescension. He was reputed to be strong as a bear and to have the teacher in our house completely under his thumb. He was the hero of many a student rumor. "Well, what are you doing here?" he called out affably in that tone the bigger boys affected when they occasionally condescended to talk to one of us. "I'll bet anything you are making a poem." "Wouldn't think of it," I replied brusquely. He laughed out loud, walked beside me, and made small talk in a way I hadn't been used to for a long time. "You don't need to be afraid that I wouldn't understand, Sinclair. There's something to walking with autumnal thought through the evening fog. One likes to compose poems at time like that, I know, about moribund nature, of course, and one's lost youth, which resembles it. Heinrich Heine, for example. I'm not as sentimental as all that," I defended myself. "All right, let's drop the subject. But it seems to me that in weather like this, a man does the right thing when he looks for a quiet place where he can drink a good glass of wine or something. Will you join me? I happen to be all by myself at the moment. Or would you rather not? I don't want to be the one who leads you astray, mon vieux. That is, in case you happen to be the kind that keeps to the straight and narrow." Soon afterwards, we were sitting in a small dive at the edge of town, drinking a wine of doubtful quality and clinking the thick glasses. I didn't much like it to begin with, but at least it was something new. Soon, however, unused to the wine, I became very loquacious. It was as though an interior window had opened, through which the world sparkled. For how long, for how terribly long, hadn't I really talked to anyone? My imagination began to run away with me, and eventually I even popped out with the story of Cain and Abel. 오늘은 여기까지입니다. 오늘 영상이 여러분이 영어의 감을 잡는 데 도움이 된다면 구독, 좋아요로 꼭 알려주세요. 더 좋은 영상을 만드는 데 큰 힘이 될 것입니다. 여러분 감사합니다.